Oh, Mohammed Hijab, you have just embarrassed yourself beyond measure. He's not just controlling my comments, he's controlling everybody's comments. What I'm talking about is them taking separately filmed footage and editing it into the original debate to make it look as though it was said in the original debate. The audience members decided to Google it, and lo and behold, Mohammed Hijab was wrong, I was right, and this is what happened. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to title this video, but given the amount of times that Mohammed Hijab has used clickbait against me with titles such as Atheist Rattled by Simple Question and Muslim Gets Agreement from Atheist Skeptic in Debate, I think it's somewhat permissible. But anyway, you're here now regardless. So hello, hi, my name is Alex O'Connor, and a year ago, or thereabouts, I took part in a debate with Mohammed Hijab and Abdullah al-Andalusi on the motion something like Islam explains reality better than atheism. The debate, frankly, was a disaster, and for a long time I've been meaning to explain why. This is one of my most highly anticipated videos, a debate review of what went wrong. Now, originally my intention was just to cover the subject matter of the debate and explain why things got confused and why we kind of were talking past each other at different points in the debate. But when I went back to rewatch the debate and try and discover some points that I could talk about, I realized it is just so much worse than I originally thought. So in this video, I want to explain a number of things which you may have seen me talking about on Twitter already, not just the subject matter of the debate, but things like controlling comments, things like misrepresenting me in the things that I believe, things like quoting me during the debate on quotes that simply do not exist, or even better, and you'll want to stick around for this, quoting me, quoting other people, and pretending as though the thing I'm quoting is my own belief. I'm not kidding, stick around. So what I'm realistically going to want to do here is just watch through some parts of the debate and explain what went wrong, explain how I was misrepresented and misquoted on numerous occasions, explain the kind of absurdities that I found while going through this debate and why I responded in the ways that I did or didn't at the time. But before I do so, there are a few points that I want to mention about the debate itself, the way it was handled, the way it's been uploaded and the comments and things like this. So let's just run through a few of those points and you'll see what I'm talking about. So the first thing to note is that Mohammed Hijab's version of this video is titled Islam versus Atheism, Oxford University Debate. This debate was not hosted by Oxford University, as it says in the event description. This was hosted by the Oxford Forum, which is a student-run society. I know the organisers of the debate, they put in a lot of effort to try and get this to come to pass, and when they did, they got absolutely no credit for it. And I remember when we did the next debate that I did with Sabur Ahmed, which was also filmed by the same organisation, they told me that they were quite upset by the fact that they didn't get any reference. So that's the first thing to note, is that there's absolutely no referencing to the people who hosted the debate, nor is there a link to my channel or anything like that. And in fact, why don't we just take a look at the description of this video to see the objective manner in which the events are described. The debate was hosted by Oxford University. Not true, as I say. The topic debated was, does Islam explain reality better than atheism? And the arguments made were powerful, passionate, and intense. Alhamdulillah, the truth of Islam was demonstrated to not only be the best explanation of reality, but the only explanation of reality that makes sense with what we can observe. On the other side, the atheist's denial, notice atheist is capitalized there by the way, of God, meant that they couldn't provide an ultimate explanation of reality without falling into self-contradictions. So this is a taste of the kind of objective neutrality that we're dealing with on a channel like this, bearing in mind that they have sole monopoly over the footage, right? This is another thing that I need to note, is that I am not allowed to upload the footage. I don't have permission to do so. Originally, before the debate was put on, I was under the understanding that I would be able to have access to the footage, but this isn't something I agreed with iERA, who is the organisation who filmed it, themselves. So admittedly, like, this could be fine. It could just be due to a misunderstanding. Anyway, after the debate happened, I got an email through that said, look, we filmed this, we paid for this, but we understand that you might want to use the footage, so we'll allow you to do so under some strict conditions. I'm not going to actually show you a screenshot of the email or something, I'm not sure what the legalities are on that, but there were 4 conditions that were mentioned in the email pertaining to how I could use the footage. The first was that I'm only allowed to use a specified 40 minutes of the debate. I'm only allowed to include the opening statements. That is to say, I can't upload the full debate. Again, this is potentially reasonable because they want people to be directed to their version of the video because they filmed it, so fair enough, that's okay. Then they listed 3 conditions. First condition, I wasn't allowed to distort or edit the footage in any way. Of course, perfectly reasonable. Second, I'm not allowed to control or manipulate the comments, none held for review, none deleted, anything like that. Again, perfectly reasonable. This is a public debate and we don't want to be controlling the reactions. Condition 3, I appropriately reference and cite them as the originators of the footage and give them credit where credit is due. None of these 3 privileges were afforded to me in return. Okay, let's go through these points one by one. This will probably amaze you. On the first point about editing and distortion, okay, I'm not just talking about them taking a clip from the original debate and uploading it in isolation, although they did do that. What I'm talking about is them taking separately filmed footage and editing it into the original debate to make it look as though it was said in the original debate. Right, I'm not kidding, right? Edited in footage, literally filmed separately and spliced in to the debate to make it look as though it was said at the time, right? I have never come across this kind of thing before in my life, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it for the first time. Let me demonstrate it to you now. Okay, so here we are. It's Mohammed Hijab's closing statement, which you can find in the original speech. Now, for most of the speech, it's one continuous shot, which you can view here if we watch him talk for a minute.
Fact, like Abdullah said, they're polytheists. That's what the Quran says, chapter 39, verse 29. Allah says in the Quran, He says,
Ooh, did you spot that? Did you see what happened there? Let's watch that again.
Allah says in the Quran, He says,
Okay, so there appears to be some kind of cut. Now, was this just a cut to a different camera or something like that? Well, let's analyze this cut and see what actually happened here. Okay, so before the cut, what we can see here, these are the things to take notice of, most pressingly. Firstly, Mohammed Hijab is wearing suit and tie, and notice how the tie is tucked into the jacket. Also notice that he's wearing a lapel microphone on the tie that's clipped on to pick up his voice. Now compare that with the clip that you see after the cut. As you can see, not only has his hand positions changed, I mean, I'm surprised I have to explain this to you because it's obvious what's happened here, but just in case, take a look at the tie, it's no longer tucked in. Now, again, this could be something to do with it being filmed at maybe a different point in the debate and the tie slipped out or something. Okay, but look, there's also no microphone on his tie. Okay, the microphone was clipped on to myself and all of the other debaters at the beginning of the debate and left on until the end, right? The fact that the microphone has now disappeared implies only one thing. This was not filmed during the debate. Now, to their credit, they've at least tried to replicate the background. I mean, it might be the same background. I'm pretty sure they left at the same time I did, so I'm not sure. I mean, it looks to me as though maybe the slates of wood behind Mohammed in the second clip are closer together. They're like thinner slabs or something than in the original footage. I don't know. I mean, there's a small chance it was filmed in the same venue. But what's certain is that the clip that was edited in was not said in the original debate, right? This is editing, right? Not just, as I say, not just taking a clip or something like that, but literally splicing in footage to a debate to make it look as though it was said in the original debate. Have you ever seen anything like that before? I certainly haven't. I think it's absolutely scandalous, and I've never been more outraged in regards to a debate that I've done. I genuinely was just flabbergasted when I first noticed this. Now, the thing that's been edited in here is Mohammed Hijab singing, quoting the Quran, something he often does in his debates. So it may be argued that this isn't a particularly bad edit. It's not like he edited in a new argument or something like that. Instead, he was just trying to make sure that he got the quote correct. Okay, but this is bad enough. Firstly, you just don't edit debates in this manner. This is just not something that you do. Secondly, if he misquoted the Quran, there seems to be something going on here which I'd like to point out, and I have to hypothesize this because I can't be sure this is the case. But what if I were to misquote the Quran? What if I made an argument in my closing statement and I misquoted the Quran? Mohammed Hijab would have jumped on me for misquoting the Quran, saying I don't know what I'm talking about. As you can see him doing to David Wood in his debate with David Wood, when David Wood doesn't fully understand Arabic terms and he tries to employ them, Mohammed Hijab jumps on him and says, you've got it wrong, right? I'm sure the same thing would have happened to me, but if Mohammed Hijab misquotes the Quran, no problem. His organisation has a monopoly over the footage, so they can just delete it, pretend it never happened, and edit it in a new version. And they didn't even do a very good job. I mean, at least make sure that the tie's properly tucked in and you've put the lapel mic on. I mean, you've gone to the trouble of replicating the background. You could at least replicate the microphone. I think this is absolutely outrageous. Point number 2, about manipulation of the comment section. This is a really interesting one. As we'll see if we look at my opening statement, there's a point during my opening statement at which my microphone mysteriously cuts out. Now, look, these things sometimes do happen. Sometimes there are genuine technical difficulties. It just so happened that it cut out at the moment I was talking about the Quranic verse, which has the injunction about hitting wives, right? Now, when I started talking about that, how the Quran permits men to beat their wives, my microphone cut out, right? Now, That might be a mysterious point in itself, but as I say, I'm willing to grant them the benefit of the doubt. So what I did was I decided to comment on the video explaining what I'd said when my microphone cut out. So I just said, listen, my microphone cut out at this point in the debate. Here's the kind of transcript, if you will, of what I said when it cut out. You won't find that comment underneath Mohammed Hijab's video. Now, why might that be? Okay, maybe he thinks it's unfair for one of the members of the debate to kind of get to have more say in the comment section or something like that. No, he's not just controlling my comments, he's controlling everybody's comments. So let me prove this to you. Firstly, it's proof in itself, the fact that my own comment just didn't appear, right? It proves to me that some comments are being restricted. You can see on my version of the video, my comment is right here under the video. It's right here. I'll post a screenshot or something if you can't see it on the camera here. But if you go onto a public version of the debate, not from my account, the comment simply isn't there. In other words, the comment was definitely posted because it's right there, but it was restricted or not approved or something like that. Now, how do I know that this is happening to everybody? Well, firstly, because many people have told me themselves that they've left a comment which didn't appear under the video. But also, we can do a simple mathematical equation here. Take a look at this. Just a few days before or after, I can't remember, I had this debate with Mohammed Hijab and Abdullah Al-Andalusi. I debated Jonathan McLatchie, who is a Christian, on the topic of Christianity and whether it's true. Now, that footage was on my channel. I filmed it and I uploaded it. So let's take a look here real quick. The debate that I uploaded with Jonathan McLatchie has 469,000 views and 18,400 comments. Okay, that's the kind of ratio that I tend to get on a video, and it's especially a debate like this one. Okay, so nearly 500,000 views and 18,500 comments. Compare that to Mohammed Hijab's debate, which has more views. It's got just over 700,000 views, and how many comments? 661. Something's not adding up here. Now, it's one thing, it's bad enough to just control the comments and only leave in the ones that are singing your praises and saying that the atheist got destroyed. Okay, that's bad enough in itself. But the gall, the irony of this organization emailing me and saying, hey, one of our conditions for the usage of this footage is that you don't manipulate the comments. Like, who the hell do you think you are to tell me not to manipulate the comments, not to edit the footage when you're doing all of these things yourselves and completely unashamedly? Again, this just bemuses me. I can't believe this kind of thing actually happens. And finally, on the third point about proper crediting, I was expected to credit them, which of course I would have done. I don't see any credit on Mohammed Hijab's video for the Oxford Forum for hosting the debate. They don't even get a mention. I myself do get a mention, but no links are provided to my work or anything like that, which is standard procedure in these kinds of debates. Okay, so those are the 3 points of the email covered. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is just the beginning. Now, before we even get into the debate, you know what we're dealing with here. People who control comments, who edit footage, who misquote, who mysteriously maybe disable the mics, maybe not. We'll talk about that when it comes to it as well. And then email me saying that I'm not allowed to do any of these things. This is what we're dealing with. Let's get into the actual debate itself and see what went wrong here. Now, I'm not going to play the whole debate because that would be an incredibly long video and probably wouldn't get very many views because people would just rather go and watch the original debate. So I'm not going to play it all. I'm going to play the relevant parts here. But of course, the full video is linked in the description because I properly reference my videos. The first thing to note is that Abdullah Al-Andalusi, who was the first speaker for the proposition, I suppose, on their side, I found to be incredibly professional, honest and sincere. He was a perfectly nice man. We talked before, we talked afterwards, and I have absolutely no quarrel with him. Mohammed Hijab, on the other hand, I remember when I helped to carry in the camera equipment to the venue that one day would be used against me. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I remember kind of seeing Mohammed Hijab before the debate. I went up, I shook his hand, I said hello. He just didn't want to talk to me. He kind of sat over on one of the seats with his people and didn't really engage, unlike Abdullah. So I just wanted to make the point that I've got no quarrel with Abdullah and I don't think he should face any backlash for this. Also, because the Oxford Forum had organised both Mohammed and Abdullah to be debating me, they wanted to get someone on my side as well. So they got Colin Brewer, who's the person on my side, and well, let's just not talk about Colin Brewer. Okay, so let's have a look at my opening statement, which was the second speech to be delivered. I'm going to cut to the middle here, and we'll have a listen to what I have to say. Is the verse which I'll quote to you. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other.
and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous are women who are devoutly obedient, guarding in their husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them.
Then what? What comes next? Well, of course we have no way to know because my microphone cut out at the exact moment that I said, and finally strike them, which is the most problematic part of the verse and the reason I was citing it to use against the case for Islam in my opening statement. It's funny that. Now bear in mind, if this was a mistake, if this was just a technical error, every single other microphone was live, right? It was recording, or at the very least there was camera audio, right? You could easily just turn one of those up. I mean, you can just faintly hear what I'm saying in the background, right? All you have to do is just boost the volume and you can hear what I'm saying. You just take one of the other microphones, in other words, that will have picked up what I said and turn it up, right? But no, the microphone just cuts out and absolutely nothing is done about it. Luckily, of course, we have the comment section where I can go and tell... Oh, no, wait, hold on, I forgot about that.
Now, okay. Perhaps this isn't a thing about women.
Oh good, the microphone comes back in again just to the point when I finish talking about the striking verse. That's really great, that's very convenient. Again, probably just a technical error. There could be many coincidental, mysterious happenings in this debate, but it's up to you, dear viewer, to decide whether or not you believe that. Oh wait, it gets even better because I can show and demonstrate to you now how it would be possible to allow you to hear what I was saying despite my microphone cutting out, because at the beginning of Mohammed Hijab's opening statement, you'll notice something going on with the microphone. Take a listen.
I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you very much for coming. It's first day of Ramadan for us.
Did you hear how the quality kind of shifted there, but the volume didn't, right? The reason for that is because for some reason, the microphone that's on his lapel that mysteriously disappears later in the video wasn't picking up his voice at the beginning. Maybe they hadn't activated or something like that. But notice what they do to account for that. They've taken audio that was picked up by another microphone and they've boosted it. Perhaps the other microphone was trying to pick up the clapping that was still going on. At any rate, what they've been able to do is take another microphone's picking up of what Mohammed Hijab said, boost it so that we can hear what it says, and then blend it in with his lapel microphone when the lapel microphone comes back on again. Listen again, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you very much for coming. It's first day of Ramadan for us.
There's a clear shift in quality indicating that it's gone from a microphone further away to the microphone on his lapel, but no shift in volume. The volume has been adjusted accordingly. Now compare that with when my microphone cut out and came back in again and see the difference.
Now, okay. Perhaps this isn't a thing about women.
Notice how the microphone turned back on again, right? There was kind of no volume. You could just about hear a muffled kind of computery microphone sound in the background, and then boom, it came back on again at a higher volume, right? Compare that to Mohammed Hijab's microphone not coming on, but other microphones that picked up what he was saying being boosted in order to still hear what he was saying. What I'm saying, in other words, is that even if this were a genuine mistake, even if it were that my microphone did actually just cut out, this could have been easily remedied in the way they remedied Mohammed Hijab's opening statement, but they chose not to, and I can only wonder why that might be. Anyway, let's take a look at Mohammed Hijab's opening statement, and we'll break it down and see where things went a bit wrong.
I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you very much for coming. It's first day of Ramadan for us, and we're happy to have you. Now, I've come here, me and Abdullah, actually, we've come here to refute magic. Wait a minute, what did you say? Let me say that one more time. We've come here to refute magic. It's actually an interesting magic trick where there is no bunny, there's no hat, and in fact there's no magician at all. It's the proposition that something can come from nothing. Not only from nothing, ladies and gentlemen, but from nothing and by nothing.
Now it's hard to clearly make out under the thunderous laughter that resulted from Mohammed Hijab's brilliant joke, but I think what he's saying is that an atheist in this debate is making a claim that something came from nothing, which of course is not the case. I was countering their claim rather than making a claim of my own, but that's something that will come up in the later section.
The Quran says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Were they created from nothing, or were they themselves the creators of themselves? Now we've heard Alex today, for the second time I've heard him say this. He says that the universe may have come into existence from nothing, minute 14 to 15 in his video, Does the Universe Have a Cause? He says, when the universe came into existence, it well and truly came into existence from nothing. Now, wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a challenge. That's an active claim. He said, I'm not here to make any active claims. Sorry, that is an active claim.
Oh, Mohammed Hijab, you have just embarrassed yourself beyond measure. I'm about to demonstrate to you just by showing the clip that you just cited that you are either completely deaf or completely dishonest. I don't know which it is, but I cannot believe you actually just said that. You're absolutely going to love this. Well, you might hate it, but you know what I mean. Let's just listen again to the claim that Mohammed Hijab is making. Make sure you understand it before I show what he's gotten wrong here.
Minute 14 to 15 in his video, Does the Universe Have a Cause? He says, when the universe came into existence, it well and truly came into existence from nothing.
Okay, so in my video, I say that when the universe began to exist, it began to exist out of nothing. Right, that's a claim. The universe began to exist out of nothing. That's a claim, an active claim I'm making that I have to defend. Now, Mohammed kind of presses the point just a little bit that this is a claim that I'm going to have to prove and defend. Let's take a listen to that too.
Now, wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a challenge. That's an active claim. He said, I'm not here to make any active claims. Sorry, that is an active claim. Look at the syntax of that particular sentence. You're saying the universe came into existence from nothing. Don't pretend to be passive. Oh, I don't know. No, you do know. You're making a statement. Either you know what you're saying or you don't. Tell me how the universe came into existence from nothing and by nothing, ex nihilo. I want to know. Tell me how that's possible metaphysically, ontologically, cosmologically. From first principles, give me the answer, please.
Okay, I'm beginning to get the impression that Mohammed Hijab wants me to justify my claim that the universe began to exist out of nothing. Okay, slight problem with that. I never said that. Mohammed Hijab has quoted me quoting someone else's belief. Quoting me, quoting a belief that I don't agree with, and is claiming that I was making that claim. Okay, I'm going to prove this to you by simply finding the quote that he provided and demonstrating to you what's happened here. So let's just find the quote.
Minute 14 to 15 in his video, Does the Universe Have a Cause? He says, when the universe came into existence, it well and truly came into existence from nothing.
Okay, here we are. So let me just play this now.
Firstly, of course, we have the universe. When the universe came into existence, it truly did come into existence out of nothing. Okay, because for the universe to be born, if there was something before it, then that would be encompassed by the universe. So this did truly begin to exist out of nothing.
Ah, interesting. Seems like I said it. When the universe began to exist, it truly came into existence out of nothing. Wow, Mohammed Hijab has really owned me there, except no, he hasn't, because let's just go a few minutes earlier in this very same video, because any follower of my channel will know that I don't make that claim. I don't say that the universe began to exist out of nothing. So why did I say it there? Well, let's go back and find out. In this talk that I'm giving, I'm talking about the Kalam cosmological argument, which is an argument with two premises. The first premise is that everything which begins to exist has a cause. The second premise is that the universe began to exist, and the conclusion is that the universe has a cause. Notice that the second premise there, that the universe began to exist, that's the second premise of the Kalam, that's the claim that Mohammed Hijab says I made and have to defend. So let's take a look at what I actually say about these premises.
The premises. Most people, when they see this and they're trying to debunk it, they jump straight to the second premise. This seems the easiest to debunk. The reason being is you can simply ask, well, how do you know? How do you know that the universe began to exist? Now, to be sure, the Big Bang happened. Okay, we're pretty certain of it at this point, but the Big Bang never claimed to be the beginning of everything.
Okay, so here's our first indication that something's gone wrong. I'm arguing that actually that premise, that the universe began to exist, can't be substantiated. Even if we agree that the Big Bang happened, you can't say that that was the beginning of everything, the beginning of the universe with the capital U. Okay, so maybe I'm not making that claim, but why did I say it later in the video then? Why did I say it such that Mohammed Hijab could quote it? Well, let's continue.
What we could do is say, well, you can't prove that this is the case, so the argument's flawed, it's debunked, and we can all go home. But that would be no fun, and so I don't want to focus on premise 2. We're going to give the theist the benefit of the doubt here, and instead talk about premise 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause.
We're going to give the theist the benefit of the doubt. In other words, I think that this premise, that the universe began to exist, isn't true, but I'm willing to grant it for the sake of argument to talk about the rest of the argument. Okay, just consider that, make sure we've understood this correctly, okay? The premise of the Kalam cosmological argument is that the universe began to exist, and I've said, I don't believe that, but I'm just going to grant it so that I can talk about the argument. Okay? So now consider what I say in a minute.
Firstly, of course, we have the universe. When the universe came into existence, it truly did come into existence out of nothing.
So this should be clear now. What I was doing was saying that, look, I'm going to grant you the premise, Mr. Theist, that the universe began to exist in order to help your argument. But just so you know, for this to be of any relevance to the argument, it would have to be beginning to exist out of nothing. Okay, so let's grant the premise that the universe began to exist, even though I don't believe it. But when the universe did begin to exist, it began to exist out of nothing. Notice what's happened here. I've said I'm going to grant the premise, I've then quoted the premise, and then Mohammed Hijab has quoted me quoting the premise and said that that's what I believe. And that, ladies and gentlemen, this is an active claim. This is, say you're not making any claims. No, come on, show me how this is possible. Show me, demonstrate to me, metaphysically, cosmologically, how this is possible. Come on, man, this isn't what I said. And I could forgive you for just not having heard that other bit of my discussion, having misunderstood what I was talking about, right? But that qualification came before the quote that you took from my video, and just before as well, in the opening part of the discussion. So you've either not listened to the speech that you've tried to quote, or you've ignored it. It's again, up to the audience to decide which has happened here. So now, just to let this sink in, let me just recap what's happened here. I make an argument talking about the Kalam cosmological argument, and I say that the universe began to exist is a claim that I don't believe. I don't believe that the universe began to exist, but let me just grant it for the sake of argument. Now bear in mind that when the universe did begin to exist, in your argument, it began to exist out of nothing. Now look at the quote that Mohammed Hijab has taken and what he says about it.
Minute 14 to 15 in his video, Does the Universe Have a Cause? He says, when the universe came into existence, it well and truly came into existence from nothing. Now wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a challenge. That's an active claim. He said, I'm not here to make any active claims. Sorry, that is an active claim.
Mate, that's embarrassing.
Look at the syntax of that particular sentence. You're saying the universe came into existence from nothing. Don't pretend to be passive. Oh, I don't know. No, you do know. You're making a statement. Either you know what you're saying or you don't.
No, Mohammed Hijab, it seems that you don't know what I'm saying. You don't understand anything that I'm saying. That's the problem that you'll see recurring throughout this entire debate. But here's the first example of Mohammed Hijab quoting me, quoting someone else's belief and saying it's what I believe and trying to use it against me. Okay, good start.
Tell me how the universe came into existence from nothing and by nothing, ex nihilo. I want to know. Tell me how that's possible metaphysically, ontologically, cosmologically. From first principles, give me the answer, please.
But don't worry, this isn't the only time that Mohammed Hijab misquotes something in this debate. There are at least 2 other examples that I can think of off the top of my head from memory. But again, we'll get round to them when we come to it.
But it's interesting because in his other video, Something from Nothing, where he was debating the contingency argument with a fellow American, or an American man, minute 48, he says this, listen to this.
Aha, prepare yourselves, it's another quote.
He agrees with the radio guy that was speaking to him that the universe is a necessary existence. Wait a minute. What's going on here, ladies and gentlemen?
I think you, the audience, should know by now what's going on here. I've actually only just noticed this, but you can actually see me smirking, smiling as he's saying this. Look, watch this clip.
That the universe is a necessary existence. Wait a minute. What's going on here, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, you can see the face of the realization in a man that someone has completely misunderstood what he's saying. It's kind of a second-hand embarrassment that you're seeing on my face there. You can see in my face that I'm not just doing this after the fact. I'm not just going back and saying, no, this is what I meant, this is what I'm saying. I knew at the time that Mohammed Hijab was misquoting me. Mohammed Hijab quoted me at minute 48 of my debate with Cameron Batuzzi on the Unbelievable show. So let's go find the quote. Okay, minute 48, let's watch this together.
I'm just going to say, the universe can be that.
Do you see how that objection kind of riddles itself into the very first premise? Because if I'm going to deny the existence of contingent objects as Cameron has defined them, then that kind of means that the universe and everything in it is necessary in a sense.
Wait a minute. What's going on here, ladies and gentlemen? What does necessary existence mean? A necessary fact is a fact that cannot be any other way. 2 + 2 = 4. That's eternally going to be the case. So a necessary existence is eternal. It cannot be any other way. So wait a minute, if the universe is eternal, how could it come from nothing? Contradiction.
Okay, we're going to have to break this down and get a bit philosophical, kind of, I suppose, right now, which I suppose it's about time. But notice that there are two kinds of necessity that we could be talking about here. Mohammed Hijab wants to talk about a necessary object, a necessary existence, right? Because he believes this is God, right? Something that exists necessarily. As an example of necessity, he gives 2 + 2 = 4. This is an example of something that's necessarily true. It's not an example of a necessary existence, right? And there's a difference here. 2 + 2 = 4 can be said to be necessarily true because it can't be false. But it would be meaningless to say that 2 + 2 therefore exists, that it's a thing that actually is kind of out there in the universe or outside of it or something like that. It's just to say that the proposition is necessarily true, not to say that there is a necessary being, right? So you can admit that some things are necessarily true. You can admit, I say admit, you can just accept the existence of necessity without admitting that there's a necessary being that exists, right? This should be trivially true. Of course, I can say that propositions are necessarily true, like 2 + 2 = 4, without having to also believe that there is a necessary being like God that exists, because these are two different things that need to be pulled apart.
Contradiction. It's a contradiction. You can't have it both ways, my friend. And this is what atheism leads you to. Contradictory set of propositions.
So it's a contradiction, apparently. Not so, I'm afraid. What did I mean when I was talking on the radio show about necessity? Well, I was talking about the universe and everything in it being necessary. This should be the first indication that I wasn't talking about a necessary being like God. I said that, or I was considering the possibility of the universe and everything in it being necessary. How can everything in the universe be necessary if by necessity I'm talking about a singular existing necessary being? Clearly, I'm talking about a different kind of necessity. I'm talking about causal necessity. I'm talking about the idea of determinism, the idea that there's a causal chain in the universe. It's an idea I'm sure my followers will be familiar with. It's at the basis of my philosophy surrounding free will, the idea that causes and effects kind of necessarily entail each other. Okay, so what I was considering was the possibility that everything in the universe was necessary, that all of the effects in the universe had to happen because they were just following causes that came before them which couldn't be changed. That's the kind of necessity I was talking about, necessary causation. Mohammed Hijab says, hold on, wait a minute, he's talking about necessity, which must be a necessarily existing being, which we define as God.
So wait a minute, this is very important, guys. Hold on. You agree that there should and ought to be a necessary existence. If you agree with me on that, then you're not an atheist, because the necessary existence is the Islamic definition of God.
And if you think that a necessary being can be defined as a causal chain that exists inside the universe, then you're not a Muslim. In other words, we're using different definitions of necessity. It's almost like I meant something else when I said necessity exists, and you've taken that, quoted me on it, to make it seem as though I agree with you when I in fact don't. And Mohammed Hijab should know this. I mean, look what he's done here. He's said, we're trying to talk about a necessary being, that is God. He's trying to show that I believe in God by saying that I believe in a necessary being. But his example of necessity that he's given is that 2 + 2 = 4.
What does necessary existence mean? A necessary fact is a fact that cannot be any other way. 2 + 2 = 4. That's eternally going to be the case.
Mohammed Hijab has given as an example of the thing I believe in just the existence of necessity, and tried to use that to show that I believe in a necessary being, a necessary object, which simply isn't the case. And this is the most infuriating thing, is that later in this debate, this comes up again. Mohammed Hijab kind of tests me on this. He says, do you think there's such thing as necessity? And I say, yes. Now, this is a clip that Mohammed Hijab takes from the debate and uploads separately. I'll leave a link in the description. And the video is titled something like, Muslim gets agreement from atheist skeptic in debate. What are we agreeing on? We're using different definitions of necessity, right? It's like me just defining God as, I don't know, a toothbrush, and saying, do you believe that toothbrushes exist? And you say yes. And I say, aha, well, that's what I'm calling God, so you agree with me. And uploading that to YouTube and saying, you know, I get an agreement from my interlocutor that God exists. It's like, no, you haven't. Like, that's not clever. You haven't done a good job there. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to skip forward and show you this actually happening. So this period of the debate is just a lot of kind of bickering and talking over each other. That there's only a few kind of substantive points that could be extracted from it. But I don't want you to think that I'm picking and choosing here. So again, the link is in the description to watch the whole debate. But I'm going to pick out the bits that I think went wrong. So first is this point about necessity. Let's have a look at our interaction here.
Do you agree that there could be
Nobody explained that.
Do you accept that there is a necessary existence?
I would say that, yes.
Then that's God.
But that doesn't have to be God.
Debate over, thank you very much.
No, that does not have to be God. I'm sorry.
No.
That's
our understanding of God.
Aha. Well, I don't know how I'm ever going to recover from that just excellent, supreme takedown. I mean, asking if I believe in necessity and me saying yes, and you saying, well, the debate's over because that's how we define God. I mean, it just, I never would have seen it coming. This, by the way, is the clip that I'm talking about, that Mohammed Hijab uploaded and got over 100,000 views on a video entitled, Muslim gets agreement from atheist skeptic in debate with an exclamation mark to go with it. And it's this. It's this clip. It's him saying, do you believe in necessary existence? Me saying, I guess so. And him saying, well, that's God. I mean, brilliant. Fantastic. I'm just bemused at how he is just this good at debating.
It does not have to be God.
Yeah, for us, a necessary existence is something which is, this is perfect. Couldn't be any other way. Explains everything else. That's our definition of God.
It explains everything else.
Because it's necessary, it couldn't be any other way. All contingent.
It couldn't have been any other way. That's got no explanatory power.
Alex.
So here's our first indication that we're not talking about the same kind of necessity, and it's going to be demonstrated even more in a second with the question I asked, that we don't actually understand the same thing. Now, this could be something, you could put this down to a kind of just disagreement about what necessity means, and that would be legitimate. It would be like, well, this isn't anyone's fault, we just understood the terms differently. But no, because he's quoting me. He's saying, I'm making a claim. And so the burden is on him to make sure he's understanding me correctly, that he knows what I mean. If he's going to say, this is a claim you're making and this is what it entails, you'd better be sure that you know what I actually said. You can't rely on just saying, but I'm using a different definition of necessity to you. Well, if that's the case, then use my definition or don't quote me and try to hold me to it. Now, hopefully I explained a moment ago sufficiently what I meant when I said I believed in necessity as a deterministic causal chain. And you can see me trying to get this across to Mohammed as I begin to realize what the misunderstanding is in the next part of the clip.
All contingent things depend upon it. Yes?
Give me an example of a contingent thing.
This cup.
How was it contingent?
Because it could have otherwise not been in existence.
Do you know you're speaking to a determinist?
Okay, so what I'm trying to imply here is Mohammed Hijab is saying the cup is contingent because it could have been another way. And I'm saying, no, I'm a determinist, so I don't think it could have been another way. I think it was necessarily causally determined to be as it was. That's what I mean by necessity, right? So that's why I say, when he says that the cup is contingent, I say, you're speaking to a determinist, right? Implying, that when I say necessity, I mean necessity, causal necessity of objects within the universe. His response?
Do you know you're speaking to a determinist?
Pardon?
Do you know you're speaking to a determinist?
Okay, so where does determinism come from?
Well, where does determinism come from? Like, what?
Let me ask you a question. This might seem isolated, but it will make sense.
Go ahead.
Okay, so here's the question that demonstrates that we're not talking about the same thing here.
If P entails Q, and P is necessary, is Q necessary?
No.
It's not?
No.
I mean, this appears not just to be us kind of having a different definition, but Mohammed Hijab not understanding what necessity means. Okay, let's just think about this question that I just asked. I said, if P entails Q and P is necessary, is Q also necessary? In other words, if P necessarily exists, if it has to happen, right? If there's no way that it could not happen, and if P then Q, if that statement is true, if P's existence entails Q's existence, is Q also necessary, right? And Mohammed Hijab says no. He says that somehow you can have a thing that is necessarily true, that has to be true, that makes something else true, and yet the second thing could be false, right? You want to talk about logical contradictions, Mohammed Hijab? This is one of the most basic that there is. To say that something is necessarily true is to say that it is true in all conditions, under all interpretations in a truth table, logically speaking. To say that it cannot be false, in other words. So consider this question, right? P entails Q and P is necessarily true. That means that you're able to say that it's true that P, and it's true that P entails Q, but that Q is false, right? That's possible, okay? This is literally a logical contradiction, okay? Like, you can prove this logically, that this is a contradiction. You can put it into a very simple truth table, and you can demonstrate using propositional logic that this simply cannot be the case. In other words, the answer to the question is that if P is necessary and P entails Q, then logically Q also has to be true. And if it has to be true, if it can't be false, that means it's necessary. Yet Mohammed Hijab says no, right? Hence my response of a sustained period of silence, just to fully comprehend what he's just said.
If P entails Q, and P is necessary, is Q necessary?
No.
It's not?
No. No, it's not. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. Again, like, I don't know how obvious this is to everybody watching, but it's just the most obvious thing in the world to me. P has to be true P entails Q, and yet Q doesn't have to be true. This simply doesn't make sense.
If necessary,
Right, so-
hold on. Let me explain why. What we're doing here is we've said that these dependent contingent things,
As you're defining them,
do you accept that this cup could have otherwise not been in existence?
no.
So, okay,
That's what determinism is.
Well,
Okay, so maybe it's finally beginning to sink in for Mohammed Hijab that when I say things are necessary, I'm talking about causal necessity existing in the universe, meaning that things like cups are also necessary, causally speaking, and that's what it means to be a determinist. Maybe finally this is sinking in. So what's Mohammed Hijab's response? To change the point, to try and make another point. Let's just see what he goes on and says.
So, okay,
That's what determinism is.
Well, hold on. So you believe in the determinism?
Yes.
And you said in your speech, in your thing, a universe from nothing, you said that determinism comes from the necessary existence.
Now, this is the third time that Mohammed Hijab has quoted me, and this time I just can't find the quote. I mean, I've looked and I can't find me saying this. It's possible that I did, and if I did and one of you finds it, do let me know. But I'm doubtful that I ever actually said this. Now, usually I would say something like, well, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I just can't find it. But with the amount of times that Mohammed Hijab has already misquoted me, I'm skeptical. But again, I'm just going to grant for the sake of argument that I did say this and see what it entails. Now, again, Mohammed, I'm granting this for the sake of argument, okay? Granting it for the sake of argument. I don't believe it, so you're not allowed to quote me on it and say it's what I actually believe, okay? Just to be clear, if you're going to use this video in a future debate or publication.
You said that determinism comes from the necessary existence.
Determinism comes from the necessary existence. Now, what could I mean by this? Well, if I did say this, then this is what I would have meant. What I would have meant is that if there is a necessary existence, then determinism follows. Okay, determinism comes from necessary existence, right? Because I was trying to show to Cameron Batuzzi in the original debate that he's referencing that if there is a necessary being, like God, which again, granting for the sake of argument, if there is a necessary being, my point was that if his will is necessarily true, then the things that are a product of that will must be necessarily true. You know, if P is necessary and P entails Q, then Q must be necessary. So if God is necessary and God has a will that things in the universe are a particular way, then they must be necessary. And that would be determinism, right? Because determinism is things in the universe being necessarily ordained and caused, right? So, okay, what am I saying here? I'm saying that if there is a necessary being, then things would be determined, potentially. Determinism follows from necessary being.
Determinism comes from the necessary existence.
What I'm not saying is that determinism can only follow from a necessary being. I'm saying if there's a necessary being, determinism would follow. I'm not saying that determinism always comes from a necessary being. And this is the mistake that Mohammed Hijab makes.
Are you talking about the contingency debate with
48
Justin
minutes,
Riley?
yes. 48 minutes in, you said that one necessarily leads from the other. In other words, determinism leads from necessary existence. Yes or no?
Sorry, say that again.
You said
Determinism leads-
determinism leads from necessary existence.
Okay, I think we were talking about a different thing.
No.
I think we were talking about a different thing. Yes, we were. Now, what does Mohammed Hijab say to me trying to clarify what my own words meant?
Okay, I think we were talking about a different thing.
No. You said this, and I can show it 48 minutes into the video.
Yes, I said that sentence, but I meant a different thing by necessary
hold on.
existence.
So you said the universe was necessary
This
existence.
can't
I mean, come on. He says, you said this. And I said, yes, but I meant a different thing by necessary existence. And he goes, perfect. No, hold on. Like, no, listen to me, right? You're going to go on and say what my views entail, but I'm trying to explain to you that you've got my views wrong, that you've misunderstood what I meant by necessity. When I said that determinism comes from necessity, I didn't mean what you think I meant, right? That's not what I said. Now you're going to try and tell me that I'm committed to believing that God exists because of it, even though that's not what I actually said. Again, I'm going to try this one more time, just one more time in the debate. Let's see if third time's a charm.
Yes, I said that sentence, but I meant a different thing by necessary existence.
So you said the universe was necessary
This
existence.
can't be a semantic point scoring exercise. I meant
not.
something different by what you're
No
talking
problem,
about.
but you said this. You
I
said
meant something different by what you're talking about. No problem. But you said this. Like, dude, come on. Are we here to have a discussion, or are we here to listen to you babble on about things that I never actually said?
you said
Definitions matter.
You said determinism comes from the necessary existence.
What did I mean by that?
What did I mean by that? What I was saying was that if there is necessity, determinism follows. In the same way that I could say something like, if it rains, then my hair will get wet. Okay, this is the analogous situation. Now, that would mean I'd be saying that my hair getting wet follows from it raining, yeah? Now, imagine I said, my hair is wet. Does that mean that it was raining? Not necessarily, because although, yes, my hair getting wet does follow from it raining, it could also follow from other areas, right? So when I say it could also, like, I could have had a shower, right? If I have a shower, my hair gets wet. So my hair getting wet also follows from me having a shower. My hair getting wet follows from it raining, okay? So when I say something like, it follows from it raining that my hair gets wet, right? My hair getting wet follows from rain. I then also say that my hair is wet. I'm not committed to the view that it was raining. In the same sense, if I say that determinism follows from necessity and that I believe in determinism, I'm not committed to saying I believe in necessity, because I'm saying that yes, necessity would cause determinism to follow from it, but determinism can follow from other things as well, right? So this is the confusion, right? Mohammed Hijab says, you said determinism follows from necessity and that you agree with determinism, therefore you must agree with necessity. That's like saying, you said that your hair being wet follows from it raining, and that your hair is wet, so it must have been raining. Simply not the case. Again, you've misunderstood me. Now, listening back to this, I can actually see that I tried to explain this exact interpretation, that what I was saying is that if there's a necessary existence, determinism follows, right? Let me try and explain this to Mohammed Hijab in the debate and see what happens.
Right, I know what you're talking about. I was the person I was debating with, a guy called Cameron Batuzzi, he was making the case for the contingency argument. Right. And he was saying that there are contingent things in the universe, and therefore he was using that to reason that there's a God. And I said that if that were the case, that necessary existence, the determinism would follow from that. I was making the case.
Okay, so
I didn't say that it does exist.
Listen, Alex,
I didn't say that it does exist.
We agree with you on that point.
Interrupts me halfway through explaining what I was talking about to say, perfect, I agree with you. No, Alex, listen, I agree with you. Trying to get agreement from the atheist skeptic in a debate, ! Okay, this isn't impressing anyone. Like, Mohammed Hijab can't even allow me to finish explaining the point that I'm trying to make before saying, perfect, yes, no, this agrees with my point and here's why. Like, again, this is just horrendous debate conduct, even if Mohammed Hijab did properly understand what I was saying and was properly engaging, let alone when he's not.
You believe in a necessary existence, which explains everything else.
No, necessary existence, be careful.
Aha, it's almost like I'm trying yet again to tell Mohammed that when I say I believe in necessity, I'm not talking about a necessary existence. Be careful, I'm talking about causal necessity existing in the universe. Again, I tried to warn Mohammed, and again, Mohammed responds like this.
You said a necessary existence. Are you retracting it?
I said that
Are you retracting?
Am I retracting what? Am I retracting your misunderstanding of what I said?
Are you retracting it?
I said that
Are you retracting?
The universe, there's not one unified necessary existence.
But you said that the universe was a necessary. So are you retracting that?
No. Stop explaining what you actually meant by it. This is what you meant by it. Now do you retract it? Come on, man.
So are you retracting that?
The universe follows a necessary causal chain.
There it is. The universe follows a necessary causal chain. That's what I mean when I say I agree with necessity.
Okay, so you said the universe is a necessary.
Looks like Abdullah is maybe catching on to what's happening here and trying to warn you about it, Mohammed. You do well to listen to your debate partner a bit more closely next time.
Okay, so you said the universe is a necessary existence, and then you said determinism follows from that. Now I'm saying that.
Okay, how about this? If I said that and I meant what you think I meant by that, then yes, I retract it. But I don't think that's what I meant.
There we go. I put it as plainly as it gets. Look, Mohammed, I've tried to explain to you that this is not what I meant. But look, if I did say that, and if that is what I meant by it, then yeah, sure, I retract it, because that's not what I said. I don't think that's what I meant. And what's Mohammed's response?
If I said that and I meant what you think I meant by that, then yes, I retract it. But
so you retract it.
So you retract it. I simply cannot win, right? He said, here's a claim that you made. And I say, that's not what I meant by that claim. And he said, no, you said it, and this is what it means. And I say, no, that's not what it means. If you allow me to explain, interrupted with him saying, no, you said this, so are you retracting it? I say, look, if that's actually what I meant by it, then yeah, I retract it, because that's not what I meant. And he goes, aha, so you've retracted it. And this is infuriating, because it's just not getting through to Mohammed that I'm trying to throw him a branch here. I'm trying to say, look, you've misunderstood me. Make sure you understand me correctly before you make your argument so that it's a steel man. And when he refuses to do so, I say, well, look, I'm fine to say that let me just say that is what I said. Then yeah, I retract it. And even then, even after all of that, Mohammed Hijab comes back with this.
No, it's important, guys, because if you're changing your argument
now... Can I have an answer
Yeah, you're changing it because now you've been cornered. That's the only reason why you've changed your argument. Thank you.
Yeah, Mohammed, people usually only say thank you when the audience applauds what they say, but nobody's falling for this. So let's just summarize what's happened in this little section. Mohammed Hijab says, he quotes me and says, this is something you said, Alex, and this commits you to believing in God. I say, that's not what I said, you've misunderstood me. Mohammed Hijab says, no, that is what you said. I understand your words better than you do. I say, no, be careful here. This is not what I said. And he says, yes, it is. And I give up and say, okay, well, look, let's just say that that is what I said. Fine. Then I retract it. Whatever. Let's just talk about what I actually believe in now. And he goes, you retract it. You retract it because you've been cornered. You know what I think it is, Alex? You're retracting it because you've been cornered. I've been cornered by your misunderstanding, Mohammed Hijab, and I hope that this is blatantly obvious to you, the audience who are watching this. I hope it's as obvious to you as it was to me then and is to me now watching it back.
Because now you've been cornered. That's the only reason why you've changed your argument. Okay, Thank you.
That's the only reason why you've changed your argument. What argument have I changed? What argument have I retracted? I challenge you, Mohammed Hijab, and I mean that in this video right now, in response, if you're going to make a response to this video, because you've been ignoring me on Twitter when I've been requesting access to upload the full version of this debate to my channel, respond to this. Tell me in this clip, because this is a clip that you quite liked and took and uploaded as a clip to your YouTube channel. Tell me what argument I changed. Tell me what my argument was in the beginning. Tell me exactly what I meant by it and what the argument was, and tell me what I changed about it in that clip, right? Because you said that I've retracted my statement and changed my argument because I've been cornered. Explain what my argument originally was. Explain how I've changed my mind, and explain how that happened because you cornered me, right? When you do that, then maybe I'll accept an apology from you. So the next part of the discussion that we have is kind of about morality. Abdullah makes the point that John Locke, who is kind of the founder of liberalism, if you will, said that atheists can't be trusted, which is true. Now, I tried to make the point that what we're allowed to do as liberals, if we are liberals, is to say that John Locke said some pretty egregious things, and we're able to condemn those things, but accept the rest of what he said. The bits that we like, we're able to say that they were good ideas. The bits that we don't, we're able to say that they are bad ideas. Whereas you can't do the same. You can't say that part of the Quran is bad. You have to say that it's all good. You have to believe that it is the literal, unmitigated word of God as recited to Muhammad, right? Muslims believe that it's literally the word of God unedited. So you can't do the same thing. You can't say, well, we'll take this bit but not that bit. But we can do so to philosophers who we don't follow and don't worship because we don't take their word as sacrosanct. Okay, so this is the point that was being made. Now, let's see how the interaction goes.
John Locke said that you can't trust atheists. He didn't say that they are necessarily by default
The difference is that the things which our worldview are based upon, which are the philosophies of these men, we can say that those areas of their philosophies were wrong. John Locke said some pretty egregious things.
You're a nihilist. How can you say anything's right?
The difference is, we'll get to that. The difference is...
No, you can't say that you're wrong.
No, I'm not going to grant you
that. You don't believe in objective morality.
The difference is that you can't do the same thing.
No, you can't do it at all.
When there is something immoral,
when there is something immoral
in the basis, when there is something immoral that comes from somebody who founded the worldview that we believe in, and something else unrelatedly that he said that no longer applies was wrong.
Can you prove it's immoral?
We can say that we disagree with what he had to say.
Can you prove it's immoral on your worldview?
We can say that we disagree with what he had to say.
You're making an active claim.
So you can't do the same thing.
You're making an active claim.
When there's immoralities in the Quran, you can't make the same... Look, we have just allowed you to speak, and there were many times I could have interjected and asked you similar questions, and you're making a Tu Quoque fallacy, and you're smart enough to know it.
As I say, I can hardly even get the point out without being consistently interrupted, but the point that Mohammed Hijab is trying to interject with is saying, well, how can you say that John Locke was wrong about, you know, the atheist clause, that atheists can't be trusted, because you believe morality is subjective. You believe in moral nihilism. Firstly, he misunderstands what I mean by moral subjectivism and nihilism, as is demonstrated in the discussion that we have. But also, he's committing a logical fallacy here. He's committing the Tu Quoque fallacy, which is to say, it's Latin for you as well. It's kind of someone saying, well, you can't do this either, right? Because my criticism was that, look, there are things in the doctrine of Islam and in the Sunnah of the Prophet that are immoral, such as the Prophet Muhammad's, I mentioned in my opening statement, the Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Aisha, who was 6 years old at the time, although Muhammad was in his 40s. And I say, look, you can't say that this was wrong, that this part was wrong, but the rest of it's fine, because it all has to be right. And then Mohammed Hijab interjects by saying, but how can you say it's wrong? How can you... It's like, look, we're working on your worldview. You're saying there's objective morality, and you're saying that this was a moral thing to do. So you have to show how those two things fit together. You have to show that they're not a contradiction. And his point was to say, but you can't talk about morality because you don't believe in morality. Right? So what? I'm saying that you do, and you believe this is moral, so you have to show that these are coherent. This is a point that seems to escape Mohammed Hijab.
You can't do the same thing.
No, you can't do it at all.
When there is something immoral,
you don't believe in
when there is something immoral in the basis, when there is something immoral that comes from somebody who founded the worldview that we believe in, and something else unrelatedly that he said that no longer applies was wrong,
can you prove it's immoral?
We can say that we disagree with what he had to say.
Can you prove it's immoral on your worldview?
We can say that we disagree what he had to.
You're making an active claim. So
you can't do the same thing.
Look, Mohammed Hijab is acting like a child here. This is evidence of his history on Speaker's Corner, as referenced by Patrick, the moderator, a moment ago in the debate. He's used to just kind of talking, just interjecting, just going back and forth. This is a debate, not an interview, right? I'm not here to listen to you talk, and when I try and respond, you continually interject and tell me what I think, and then respond to what you think I think. This isn't how debates work, okay? I'm trying to make a point that John Locke can be criticized by atheists, but Muhammad can't be criticized by Muslims. That's the point I'm making. And what's your response? How can you say anything's wrong? You're a moral nihilist. Besides the point, Mohammed Hijab, listen to what I'm saying and then respond to it. Maybe that way you'll stop misunderstanding what I'm saying, stop misrepresenting what I'm saying, and stop embarrassing yourself in public debates.
Look, we have just allowed you to speak, and there were many times I could have interjected and asked you similar questions, and you're making a Tu Quoque fallacy and you're smart enough to know it. You can't just turn around and say that you're a hypocrite for being a moral nihilist, especially since I'm not one anymore.
Oh, you've changed your mind now?
Yes.
So you retract that statement as well?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so what's happened here is that when I started making YouTube videos, I made videos saying that I wasn't sure that morality existed without God. I was a moral nihilist, a moral subjectivist. Then I went through a long period of years of kind of discussing moral philosophy with various people on podcasts and debates and things, and my moral philosophy shifted, and you can see that trend happen, culminating in a podcast I did with Rationality Rules. In other words, like, quite famously, quite openly, I explored moral philosophy and changed my mind, right? So Mohammed Hijab says, you're a moral nihilist. I say, I'm not a moral nihilist anymore. You're talking about something I used to believe in. And what does he say?
Oh, you've changed your mind now?
Yes.
So you retract that statement as well?
Oh, so you retract that too? So I retract it. I changed my mind over the course of 3 years, and you are holding me to a belief that I held 3 years ago. And when I say, Mohammed, you know my mind has changed since then, you're saying that I'm retracting it. That would be like if a Muslim convert who was an atheist and then became a Muslim was debating with me, and I said, but you don't believe in God. And he goes, no, but I've changed my mind about that, obviously. And I went, so you retract it. You retract your point. Debate over. Like, come on, this is ridiculous. This is honestly ridiculous. And it bemuses me that 700,000 people who've seen this video can't see through this. Like, just really let that sink in, okay? Like, I used to believe something years ago and then explored philosophy and my mind was changed on it. And when I explained to Mohammed Hijab that I don't believe what he thinks I believe anymore, he says, so you retract it. What is this etiquette?
Oh, you've changed your mind now?
Yes.
So you retract that statement as well?
What statement?
The ones that you said you're a moral nihilist.
What statement indeed? What statement are you talking about? You're not talking about a statement. You're talking about a broad philosophy that I used to believe in, but don't believe in anymore. Again, I just feel as though I can't win here.
My question is, he's made it very clear on his public profile that this man does not believe in objective morality. Why and how can you say this in one breath and then passing moral judgments which are based on liberalism?
I can do it because you've misunderstood what I mean. You think that I'm a moral nihilist. And moral nihilism, by the way, is the belief that moral terms are meaningless. They don't make sense. They don't have truth value, right? I don't believe that. And you're saying, how can you square your belief in moral nihilism with making moral judgments? Well, I don't have to, because I don't believe in moral nihilism. Even if I used to 3 years ago, and me changing my mind on that, it's not a retraction, right? You can sit there all you like and say, how can you square this? But again, if I was debating with someone who used to be an atheist, but now is a Muslim, I could sit there and go, how can you, this man has made very clear in his public profile that he's an atheist. How can he square this with the belief in Islam? The answer is, he changed his mind, right? Don't debate my quote book, Mohammed Hijab. Debate me. I'm right there in front of you. You have the opportunity to ask me what I think and engage with it. But instead, you're more interested in engaging with worldviews that I used to believe in. I mean, congratulations, what a great job.
All right, so Mill, in chapter 4 of his book on utilitarianism, he actually gave us an exact way of identifying what he called the principle of utility.
Oh, this bit's fun as well. Here's an example of Mohammed Hijab being explained that he's mistaken on something and holding on to the very last moment until he genuinely just cannot do so anymore, that he's correct, that I'm wrong. Here's an example.
And through that, he talked about desirability and how when you see that something is desirable for someone, then that is an evidence that it's something which ought to be done.
Okay,
now, excuse me.
Oh, Mohammed Hijab, I'm really sorry that I interrupted you there. I'll try not to do it again. I know that that's a really poor thing to do in a debate.
The title of that chapter, there is a purpose, there is a reason why the title of that chapter is not the proof of utilitarianism. It is not. The title of that chapter is... The title of that chapter is the kinds of proofs to which utilitarianism is susceptible.
No, hold on. The title of the chapter is Proof of Utilitarianism.
It's not.
You get the book.
You can check it now. It is the types of proof that utilitarianism is susceptible to.
John Stuart Mill wrote the book himself. You can get the copy from Waterstones now. Everyone in the audience can Google it. Yes, it's actually, the title is Proof of Utilitarianism, chapter 4.
It's like the title of that chapter
Get the book.
The title of that chapter is the kinds of proofs to which utilitarianism is susceptible.
I think the reason that Mohammed Hijab presses this so fiercely is because fairly recently, it seems, he's begun to lecture on liberalism, right? And so it's obviously something that he's researched and wants to think he understands because he gives lectures on the topic of liberalism. And to say that John Stuart Mill said that to say that John Stuart Mill titled his 4th chapter "Proof of Utilitarianism" is not just to misquote him, but to misunderstand his point. Right? The whole point of that chapter is to show that you can't prove the principle of utility. You can't prove it in the same way that you can't prove that just because an object is visible, that it's therefore there. That because you can see it, it's therefore visible. Right? He just says that there are certain types of proof that we just kind of accept in other areas, like that if something's visible, that if we see something, it's therefore visible. And he says that same kind of proof could be used to say that if we desire pleasure, then pleasure is desirable, right? But the point is, this can't be proved. You can only talk about the kinds of proofs to which the principle of utility is susceptible. That's the name of the chapter. So when Mohammed Hijab gets this wrong, he's misunderstood what Mill was actually saying, not just done something so petty as to misquote the title, right? Because that doesn't matter, whatever, you misquoted the title. But either way, whether it matters or not, Mohammed Hijab fiercely came down on this point, that I'm wrong about this, that we can go to Waterstones right now, buy a copy of the book and find out. Luckily, we didn't have to, because the audience members decided to Google it, and lo and behold, Mohammed Hijab was wrong, I was right, and this is what happened.
Okay, so anyone's got utilitarianism, we can see.
Okay, if anybody has a copy of the book,
let's leave it on that reference point.
Okay, yes, my friend.
No, it's important. It's important. The reason why. It's important. The reason.
Now hold on. Did you see that? We'll watch this again. Notice what happened, right? Everyone's kind of talking over each other, and Mohammed Hijab points to a member of the audience and kind of goes, you've got it up. You Googled it, and then finds out that he was wrong and says, oh, you guys, okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, I was wrong about that. Except no, of course he doesn't. He just kind of pretends as though he didn't hear it, because obviously none of the rest of the panel noticed that happening because we were too busy talking to each other. And so it kind of goes unnoticed. Mohammed Hijab goes, sir, you looked it up. Oh, I'm wrong, am I? Okay, and just turns his head away. Watch it again.
Okay, so anyone's got utilitarianism, we can see.
Okay, if anybody has a copy of the book, let's leave it on that reference point.
Okay, yes, my friend.
No, it's important. It's important. The reason why. It's important. The reason why.
Either way. Look.
Either way, it doesn't. What do you mean either way? You mean, okay, fine, I was wrong about that, but let me make my point anyway. Don't get proved wrong. Like, realize that none of us heard that you got proved wrong, and then go, look, it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter anyway, right? You can only say it doesn't matter anyway when you're right about this. You can say, look, okay, you were wrong, but look, it's besides the point, right? That's when you can use that kind of terminology. You don't get to get proved wrong and then go, either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you've now been proved wrong. Luckily, another audience member decides to interrupt us again, because obviously they didn't hear this other person either, and say that I was right.
Okay, so just to continue what I said.
Is he right? It's not proof of... Okay.
It seems Mohammed Hijab, the lion, the bastion of fierceful and articulate speech, has been reduced to, it's not utilitarian, it's just... Okay. Yeah, okay, you've been proved wrong. Now look, imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that I had misquoted the Quran, right? What would be the reaction? Mohammed Hijab, if I misquoted the Quran in front of him, from what you've seen in this debate, just imagine what the reaction would be if I just got it wrong and an audience member looked it up and said, Alex, look, you're wrong about this. What would he have said? Compare that to what actually happens when he gets it wrong.
Is he right? It's not proof of... Okay, well, I can see that point. If he's right, I can see the point.
That's fine, because I don't care if you're right or wrong about that. The thing that matters is the point that he was making, and the point that he was making is that you can't prove utilitarianism.
I don't care about that, because the thing that matters is the point that he was making, right? I don't care if you got the wording of the chapter title right. What I'm trying to say is that the fact that you got the title wrong implies that you've misunderstood the actual point, and that's the important thing, right? Like, this whole thing's ridiculous. Okay, so look, I don't want this video to go on forever. I actually have no idea how long this video is going to be until I cut it down, because I've kind of been sat here just picking out bits from the debate. But this should give you an idea of why I'm just totally fed up of hearing about this debate. You want to know one of the worst parts? Is that Mohammed Hijab has uploaded this to his channel. It's got 700,000 views, and they won't let me upload the video to my channel in full. And he's controlling the comments. So I've got, you know, half of Muslim YouTube on my arse saying, you got owned, you got wrecked. And the worst part is then they then come to me and say, why isn't the video on your channel? It's because you're scared to upload it. It's because brother Mohammed Hijab smashed you in the debate. No. They won't let me upload the footage. Believe me, I have asked. I've been on Twitter asking Mohammed Hijab and iERA to grant me permission to upload the debate. Now, by the time this video goes out, maybe they will have done. They've been ignoring me so far. But if they haven't granted that permission, then I implore you to ask them for permission, right? I'll leave a link in the description to iERA's website where you can go to the contact page and just ask them. Like, I'm not asking you to spam them. Don't go and do that kind of thing. I just mean, if you want to see this debate with the comment section actually open, with people able to discuss it, then go and ask them as I'm asking them. And hopefully, if we petition them enough, they'll let me upload the footage. Until that happens, this will have to do. So look, to recap, not properly crediting the organisers of the debate, which, by the way, I think might have happened so that they could have put Oxford University debate in the title instead of, like, Oxford Forum debate, which wouldn't have got as many clicks, maybe, but 700,000 views on a video that's controlling comments, that has edited in footage. I mean, let's not forget that happened earlier, okay? Edited in footage. Remember a second ago I said, you know, imagine what would happen if I misquoted the Quran. Well, Mohammed Hijab did misquote the Quran. It surprises me, in fact, that when he misquoted John Stuart Mill, he didn't just edit in a bit of footage filmed afterwards of him getting it right. Like, why not? You did it when you misquoted the Quran, apparently. Editing in footage. Imagine if this were the other way around. Imagine if I filmed the debate, and imagine if I uploaded it to my channel, and I controlled the comments, didn't credit them properly, edited the video, so I edited in myself saying things to correct myself and did so obviously. Imagine I also misquoted them, saying quotes that simply don't exist, and also misquoted the Quran, was proved by an audience member that I was wrong, and just kind of brushed it aside. Imagine I did all of these things, and then not only that, when uploading it with all of these kind of falsehoods and misrepresentations and manipulations, then had the audacity to say, look, we're not going to upload, I'm not going to let you upload this in full, but you can upload this specified bit, as long as you don't edit it, as long as you credit me properly, as long as you make sure that the comment section is open and not held for review. Give me a break. Again, I want to press that this has nothing to do, as far as I can see, with Abdullah, who seemed to me perfectly nice and professional, as I said earlier, as well as Colin Brewer, who I hadn't met before the debate and haven't spoken to since. I don't know who he is, I don't know what he does. Nothing to do with them. This is about misrepresentation, this is about controlling comments, this is about editing in footage to a debate. I still just can't get over that. All I'm asking is that he gives me permission to upload the debate to my channel too, and admits his mistakes. When Mohammed Hijab debated David Wood, which is a fantastic debate, by the way, just demonstrating how good of a debater Mohammed Hijab can be when he's arguing properly. It's fantastic. And at one point, he says to David Wood, look, you've misrepresented Islam, you've made fun of Islam, you've mocked Islam. If you apologize today, I've shown you why you're wrong. I've shown you why you're wrong, and if you apologize for those things today, then I'll forgive you. I'll have no problem with you. And I'm offering you the same opportunity, Mohammed Hijab. If you accept the points I'm making, if you accept that you misquoted me, if you explain why you edited the video, if you explain why you were controlling the comments and stop doing so, then I'll accept an apology from you. But until then, I'm afraid to say that I simply can't respect you or the work that you're doing. So I think that just about covers it, ladies and gentlemen. I eagerly await the response of either iERA or Mohammed Hijab, or both of them, and I'll be interested to see how they respond to these points. As far as I can see, the points that I've made are impenetrable. They seem to just be truisms. I may be mistaken on some of the points that I've made, and if I am, I want to know about it. Even if they don't respond, if you think I've made a mistake, do just let me know. My comment section is, of course, open. But yeah, this isn't the kind of debate review I really wanted to make, but I felt it was necessary. So thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Do go and watch the original debate and see for yourself the kind of stuff I'm talking about, just seeping its way throughout the entire thing. I want to thank, as always, my supporters on Patreon who've made all of this kind of stuff possible. The microphone I'm using, the screen I'm using, the lighting that I've got, the camera that I'm recording on, everything is due to the support on Patreon. And if you want me to be able to continue to produce honest, open content and debates, then do consider becoming a supporter. And a special thanks to my top tier patrons for all of the support that you've given me over the past sort of few years. But look, that's the debate review. It's been long anticipated. I doubt this video will get the 700,000 views it needs to actually compete with the debate itself, but hopefully at least you, having watched this video, will know better. So thank you for watching, as always. I've been Alex O'Connor. Do be sure to follow me on social media, and I'll see you in the next one.